Hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face, my card making space, and a couple cards using my all-time favorite stamp set. Because if you notice the title of the video, it is the Simon Says Stamp Beautiful Flowers stamp set. Mine is horribly stained. I've done dozens of videos using the stamp set because it's a favorite. I will have a link to my playlist with all of those videos at the end of this video because I've used it so many ways and I'll keep using it until it's no longer available. However, that said, any large floral stamp will work. When that one was released, that was the first large floral stamp for me that I ever had, and it became a quick favorite. But now we have so many, which makes me super happy. Because if you don't know, hi, I love large florals. I love florals. Stamps, wafer dies, real life, and the bigger the better. That's my philosophy. Anyway, these cards are for this week's Color Throwdown Challenge. For those that are new or just not aware, the Color Throwdown Challenge is a weekly challenge. It's just for fun. I will have a direct link to it in my blog post, which is linked directly below the video. And there's a new one every single week. And if you want to go back, there are years upon years worth, hundreds upon hundreds of challenges and inspiration and all the things. So if you're stuck in a rut and want to try, a different color combo, that sort of a thing, definitely worth checking out. And this one is very calm and serene. And I was like, these would work really well for sympathy cards, because one thing I don't like making is sympathy cards, but I don't mind making them and then having them in my stash. It's when I need them that is the last thing I want to do, So I do them every once in a while. I just did one, another video, much more vibrant, but they were also sympathy cards. So that's on my channel. And I was like, I need more like soothing ones as well. So that's what I did. So like always, I will have links to everything I used in the description box below the video. Just expand that. All my links are affiliate links. That just means that if you end up clicking on one of my links and end up placing an order, I get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. It's what helps pay the bills, keeps the channel going, all the things. And let's get into making these cards. So for some reason, I pulled out my Distress White Heavystock for this. Honestly, didn't need it. I could have just used my, regular Simon Says Stamp Smooth White cardstock. I think part of me was planning on getting a lot more involved with this and doing, more inky, watery techniques. And then I just didn't do it. So, yeah. I like Distress White Heavystock. It's great, especially, again, if you want to get more inky, watery sprays, etc., it's great for that, and it's really heavyweight. But for what I did for these cards, totally overkill. But I'm not going to redo it. Like, paper's paper. It's fine. So I had cut it down to 2 A2 sized panels and stuck it in my MISTI. And then I stamped the beautiful flowers image in Tumbled glass Oxide ink, just like so. And it's just perfection. I love this stamp. I used a distress sprayer. This was also why I had originally chosen the Heavystock. I think if I had just done one panel at a time while the ink was still sitting, but again, with the magic of video editing and stuff, it was mostly dry. So I sprayed water on it just to see more so what would happen. I was kind of hoping the ink would move a bit. It didn't really. It did soften a few areas, and I'm okay with that. But again, with this, could have skipped it. So instead, what I did was I pulled out some tumbled glass Distress Oxide spray so that I can add just splatter. So another option, if a person doesn't have the sprays, is you could just smush your Oxide ink pad onto a palette, add a little bit of water, use a brush, kind of splatter it that way. It'll be similar. It wouldn't be quite as intense, but it still works. I do love my sprays though. So all I did was shake it up really well, take the nozzle right off the bottle and just shook it right over these panels. I put my just flour sack cloth on my desk just to prevent me from making a huge mess. And then my card bases are cream cardstock. And I just repositioned the stamp so I could stamp this onto the inside of the cards. And I'm going to use that same Tumbled glass Oxide ink. And this as well. This color because again, oxides have pigment in them, so it sits more on top of the cardstock, so colors show up a bit more. So this on cream cardstock, it's like that vintage look. Love it. So stamp that onto the insides of the cards. And then for my sentiments, I'm using the So Sorry stamp set. This is another little oldie but goodie set that came out a couple years ago, I think. I'm not even sure. I have to move some things around to see. Yeah, it came out a couple years ago. And I lined up one of the sentiments from the set on the insides of my cards. And I'm going to stamp that with Vintage Photo Distress Oxide ink. And ink them up a couple times, stamp that, and then that finishes off the inside. So after I did that and my backgrounds were still drying because, I had big splotches of that spray and everything. So I used another sentiment from that same stamp set. And I've got some craft cardstock here. This time I'm using, I think this is Concord 9th wheat cardstock, pretty sure. You could use Nina Desert Storm. That's kind of generally kind of my go-to craft. This is a bit darker than that. I'd forgot I still had that when I was digging through my stash. I was like, oh yeah, this was another favorite of mine. It's just a nice craft cardstock. So I used my anti-static powder tool on that. And then I stamped the sentiment with white pigment ink. And then I'm going to coat that with some detail white embossing powder. Tap off the excess. And then I'll melt these with my heat tool. And yeah, you could use white pigment ink. You could use clear embossing ink. I kind of switch between both. The kind of idea is if you stamp with white pigment ink, if you miss spots with the embossing powder, it won't show up as much. Honestly, I honestly don't see that big of a difference. And yeah, it just was what it was. So I'd stamp it though, heat emboss them. After it cooled off, I just used my microfiber cloth to wipe off that excess anti-static powder. And then I die cut the sentiments with the coordinating wafer die. And then my backgrounds are now dry. So I decided to trim these down because they were originally A2 size. So I took a 1/4 inch off all the sides. So now they're 3 3/4 by 5 so that the card base will kind of frame it up nicely. And then when I die cut my sentiments, I die cut the remaining cardstock again with that wafer die just to adhere them together, just to give it a little extra something. I'm still going to use some little foam squares to adhere these, but this just gives it a little extra strength. And then I also pulled out, of course, some baker's twine from my stash, wrap that around the card front, start tying it in a bow, use my reverse tweezers to hold that in place so I can make my bow, fiddle with it, get it the way I want it, pull it tight, remove the tweezers, pull it tight again, get it the way I want, trim off the excess, and we're good to go. And then to adhere the sentiment, I just put some thin foam squares just along the top because the bottom part kind of overhangs the twine. This was also why I did the 2 layers of cardstock so that it's kind of floating there in a sense. So I did that. And then to adhere these to the card bases, I'm using my Altenew foam tape just to give it a little bit more dimension. Because when I do a bit more simple, a lot of times a nice way to kind of amp it up a bit is to use regular thickness foam tape or, add some layers, that sort of a thing. So put the foam tape on the back, pop these into place onto the card bases, and then dug through my stash again and found some bling that worked. This is Trinity Stamp Snorkel Confetti. And again, just subtle. I wasn't throwing everything but the kitchen sink at these. Keeping them a little soft, keeping them a little subtle, and not using 4 different types of bling and splatter. And, sometimes it's fun to mix it up a little bit. So I just stuck a few of those on each of these cards and adhered them into place with the little dabs of craft tacky glue. Just gotta let the glue dry and these cards are complete. So soft, subtle, demure. Apparently that's a meme right now. I have no idea, but demure, whatever. And like I said in the intro, I'll have links to all the things in the description box below the video, and then I'll have the link to my mega playlist with the bajillion videos I've done using this stamp set. That'll be in the end screen if you want to check it out. I actually used this in my most recent live stream as well. I love this stamp set. It's so fun. So all those will be, you know, at the end, down below, wherever you want to check things out. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll catch you very soon in another video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in supporting me over on Patreon, the link to that is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye.